everyone, and welcome back to episode number 15. That's right, 15. And this is a special episode because we've got an amazing guest with us this week. Those of you that are UCF basketball fans, you'll know Chance McSpadden. I remember watching him on the court, being excited when he took the floor. And we're excited to have him this week to talk a little hoops. So we're going to be talking a little hoops before we get into the bowl game shenanigans. But I'm excited about that and to bring him on board. So without further ado, let's bring him to center stage. Chance McSpadden, what it do? There we go. He's got a little intro. I feel like maybe we should have done, you know what? No, bro, you done messed up. You didn't give us an intro music. Like, you should have picked out like something. I don't know, Money to Blow, something like that. We could have introed it with. Come on.
If I could do like a better bow, I would have, but you know.
Well, what would have been your intro music if we would have gotten that right?
Ooh, that's tough. Yeah, I might have to come back to me on that one.
All right, we'll come back. We'll come back on you think on that one. So next, we're going to bring Alan to the stage. Alan Levin, he's back with us. We missed you last week. Take that hat off and give us a glorious hair whip like we did for Nova. Come on, let's see it.
I'll say it for later in the show.
To see it. I've been talking it up. You got to do it now. Come on. There it is. Do a hair whip. No, do a hair whip. Oh, bro.
What's going on, guys? Happy to be back.
We got to work on that. You got all that hair and that's all you got? Okay. All right. Fine. All right. And next, since, you know, Josh, we always bring in last but not least, we're going to bring Nobra to the stage. Welcome back, Nobra.
Hello. What's going on?
Hello. Thank you for all the hard work last week. He's putting in the hours for us, and he's doing a great job. He did a little video editing last week. So really appreciate him stepping up and doing what he does. And Trey Neal, unfortunately, will not be joining us this week. We're wishing his girlfriend a very happy birthday. I hope they're celebrating together. This is their first year of marriage. I don't know what he's going to do to top South Africa, but, whatever it is, I hope he did it right. Congratulations to her. And here's to many happy and healthy more to our family. So Josh Lazar, last but not least, let me pop him on here. We do have Josh back. He's not out of the country. He did his hair for us. He can't do a hair flip because it's all slick. So Nobra, show us how it's done.
Yeah.
There it is. All right,
no,
there's the head flip.
Not happening here.
So no collars to pop this week either, but actually maybe you should because we got Chance on deck this week. So
we won a basketball game. I was there again. That was way better than Stetson.
By the way, your shorts are finally starting to pick up. You went from 50 views to 500 views. So I guess people like what you're doing with the hoops.
It's one of these. I'll do something more smart. But if anyone in the audience wants to give me some something to say or something like that, just let me know. I'm open to asking questions.
You need a catchphrase. You need to just pop your collar.
I do. No, it just doesn't look right. It's like damn. No.
All right, I could say something right now, but it's not for everyone's consumption.
We are a clean show.
We are a clean show, even though we're rated E. So for everyone. But that being said, let's go ahead and drop Nobra off. Nobra, thank you for doing what you do, and let's focus on Chance and put him on center stage because we got a lot to talk about. I want to reintroduce Chance to everyone who does not know him. He was a basketball star for UCF. Everybody was excited when he got here. I know I cheered him on a lot. And one of the things y'all did that I miss that they don't do anymore is they don't run around the arena and high five the fans anymore. Like at the end of games, come heck or high water, because we're a clean show sometimes. Y'all used to run around the arena and used to high five all the fans. All the little kids would run down there and say what's up, and they don't do that anymore. And I don't understand that. What do you know why they stopped doing that?
COVID.
Makes sense.
COVID is over 2 years ago, bro.
I mean, I graduated in 2019, so 2020, I'm pretty sure is when COVID came. So I don't know if they stopped it then. If so, maybe they just stopped it and just forgot about it, or I don't know. Maybe it's just like, you know what, we ain't done it in a year or two. Let's just never do it again. I don't know.
I don't know. They need to
So,
do it again. That was a thing. That was fan engagement. So,
right.
um, but super excited to have you on the show. Why don't you just give everybody a quick breakdown? I remember you, but for those that don't, your time at UCF and what position you play, because people can't tell what you look like sitting down. But and a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah. Just keep a long story short. Came in 2015. My recruiting class was me, Tacko Fall, and Chad Brown. That was our recruiting class.
Great recruiting class, by the way.
Yeah,
Chad,
it
the high
was
energy guy, Tacko Fall. I mean, Taco's Taco. So
right. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it was exciting when we came in. We was all roommates together. We had been talking for like almost a year about, hey, when we get to UCF, we're gonna get things rocking. We came in and with Donnie Jones, who's now at
Mhm.
Stetson. And by the way,
yeah.
Donnie Jones is one of the best recruiters in the country. I'm just throwing it out there. He's he got
Well,
he was able.
let's ask that question. Like, what
Yeah.
was different about him between everybody else that was showing up in your living room?
Um, Consistency, I would say. Uh, he offered me when I was a freshman, my freshman summer going into sophomore year in high school. So I had an offer from him really early. He was my first Division One offer. Um, and from there, him and Coach Tillis, I don't know if you remember Big Coach Tillis,
Yep.
tall 7 foot coach. Them guys, they stayed in my ear every week until I was a junior in high school. Like, it was the most consistent. I had obviously other offers. I had coaches call me all the time, and they was just like, "Yo, whenever you want to make that move, we here." I'm pretty sure nobody else calling as much as we are. We want you. So they showed up to multiple high school games. I mean, came and did an in-home visit. So I mean, he just got my respect from when I was a freshman in high school. He did it better than most coaches did. So yeah,
Well, that's awesome. Like it's a process, right? So I didn't go through basketball recruiting, but I did go through a little bit of football recruiting
yeah,
at the D1 level, and you know, you're right as far as consistency is concerned, because the people that really want you, they're not going to come in late and try to snipe you.
right, right. Just trying to ride a wave at that point. Yeah. And then when we so obviously freshman year we didn't have the greatest year. I can't remember what our record was, but I think it was probably like 13 and maybe or 13 and 14 and like 18 or 19 or something like that. 13 or 19. I don't know. I can't remember what the record was, but it was a negative record.
Well, Donnie
Obviously,
Jones always did great in out of conference, and then we went into conference, and it was like, oh man, it was.
yeah.
What was the difference for you guys? Was it just they knew us, or was it just the caliber of players, or what do you think?
It wasn't a caliber of players. I think my freshman year team, okay, this gonna be a controversial take, but my freshman year team was better than all the teams I played with for the next years. Talent wise.
Really?
Yeah, roster wise for sure. Because you get the thing about our roster, we had obviously myself, we had Tacko, we had Matt, we had Donnie's, we had BJ, we had Shaheed Davis, we had Justin McBride, we had Stephon Blair, uh,
I
we
can
had
Stephon
see
was
that.
awesome.
Tank Effiani, who came
Yep.
in from
Yeah.
JUCO, um, Chad Brown. Uh, we had some dudes on that team, man. It was Daquan Walker, Matt. I mean, if you talking about roster wise, I mean, that was the most talented roster since. I mean, that roster from top to bottom to me was like top notch. It was just that we had some stuff off the court that don't make it to the media that some guys just weren't focused, and I think that's what's the turning point when you have other teams like Houston and UConn and Memphis. All those teams are focused coming in, and we had some guys that just weren't always fully bought in, and that was the difference in my opinion. It was never talent; it was focus.
Yeah,
So
maybe we have a conversation afterwards because I was just a quick note for the audience, whatever. I've been working at UCF since 1998 as a faculty member. We might have to have a conversation because I have a feeling I know who you. I have some insight into that too, but from that area. So
Yeah, it was some interesting
focus
things.
is a great word.
Yeah, yeah, it was some interesting things going on off the court with that team, but and it wasn't just one guy, it was multiple guys. So it was, it's kind of hard to win when you got things going on that were going on. So
Yeah, it's even like Casey Wilson too. I mean, that's a pretty solid. Oh no, he transferred out.
Nah, he was before me. He was before me.
He's right before
yeah,
me.
I think his eligibility ran out by then.
Got it. Yeah.
I mean, he was still shooting those threes from full court or whatever,
Yes.
But Casey had a good shot. I mean, when he was on, he was on.
Casey percentage wise was, I mean, I was doing my research on the team before I even got there, but he was one of the best 3-point shooters in the country, I think, statistically.
Exactly. For a while there, he led them. He led the league, the NCAA, for I think it was like 3/4 of the season. He led statistically there for a while. So he was a good shooter. I do have a question. How was it rooming with an 8-foot tall like center? I mean, like I can't imagine like. What I know they did some stuff with his bed, so that took up more room. Like I'm assuming you guys had those like quad type style where everybody had their own room, but you had a central area, or what?
I was just about to go there with the bed situation. Anytime you talk about Tacko, that's kind of I get asked that question a lot about Tacko. But yeah, in the rooms, pretty much what they did was right. Everybody has a full in towers. Period. It's all full size beds.
Yeah.
Every room has a full size bed, same bed. But for Tacko, obviously, you cannot have a full size bed. It's not gonna work out.
No.
That'll be crazy. So what they did is they took off the headboard of another full size bed, pushed another full size bed into the room so that was lined up the long ways. Put a mattress over it, a very long like pad mattress thing, and like made a way for him to be able to sleep comfortably in that room. It was a funny thing to see. Every time we walked in this room, we just laughed. It was just like, bro, you got two beds pushed right next to each other just to fit your whole body on. It was crazy.
Well, and I can imagine flying on a plane too. I mean, look, I know Ben really well. I've known him for years, and he's 7 foot. He's 7'1" or 2, something like that, right? And when that man walks in the room, I mean, you got 10-foot ceilings. He's still ducking below the door jams to get in. It's like I couldn't imagine like flying on an airplane like that because you guys flew commercial. You didn't even fly charter, so I don't even know how that worked.
Yeah. We was flying commercial, and then it was like, well, he automatically has to get the emergency exit. That's where he sits. He sits in the emergency row. So there's a lot more room there. So every flight that was just automatic, he instantly got it. And if there was a problem with like somebody else in that row, when he walks up, they're like, "Come on, bro!" Like, like I understand. I understand this was your seat, but I kind of
it ain't your seat anymore. Yeah, it's over. That's over. You see someone 8 foot walking up on you in an airplane, like, yeah, that ain't your seat no more, bro. You're done.
What are you gonna do? Be like, yeah, fight me for it. Yeah.
I mean, like the man's shoe is probably as big as his torso, so I wouldn't mess with him.
Yeah, man. I mean, we used to put our shoes. Some of us used to be able to put our shoes on and put our foot inside his shoe with our shoes on.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Like no exaggeration.
Man.
I saw Shaq's shoes one time because he used to come over to Germany all the time because his dad was military, and so he would come over there and visit with the kids and stuff like that. I met him one time, and he had his shoe, and he left it. They left it because something happened at the school. That man's shoe was ginormous. I can't imagine how that compares to like Tacko's shoe. Like I could probably put my whole forearm in his shoe and a little bit more. You know what I mean?
But no, man, it was you know, we had some good times. That was the best 4 years, you know, of my life thus far. Obviously I tore my ACL. I had a pretty good freshman year. Started a good amount of games. Mike O'Donnell had a pickup session. A couple pros came down. Some players from our team, other college players. You know, he invited all of us. We played a pickup game, and I made the wrong move. I think I was actually going past Austin Rivers' little brother on a drive, Spencer. Went for the layup, and I planted to go up. Knee went backwards, tore my ACL.
Oh,
yeah.
We have trouble with our student athletes and pickup basketball games because, you know, there was a certain football player that had a problem with that too.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he used to come in. It was two of them actually that used to come and play with us all the time. Yeah. But yeah, man, I tore my ACL. Obviously that was when we didn't have a coach. We went like a month or two with no coach. So we were just on campus like, yo, who's gonna be our next coach? So I tore my ACL before Johnny even got there. So, you know, he was already, you know, he got there, he was like, damn, tore ACL. You know, it is what it is. You know, we believe in you. We're not trying to get rid of you, nothing like that. We watched your film from your freshman year. We want to keep you here. So he called me. He reassured me. We talked in person, and you know, I did want to transfer just because most players want to stay with the guys that recruited them.
Yeah.
Right. So it was kind of like you know, a decision that a lot of us had to make. Like, do we want to stay? Because I wanted to stay to get to know Johnny. I didn't just want to transfer. Like, hey man, let me just stay here, get to know this guy, see if he's, you know, a guy I want to play for.
Yeah, because Donnie, didn't he go to like Wichita State?
Yeah, he went to Wichita. I'm not sure. Did he go straight to Dayton or did he go to Wichita first? I think
he went to Wichita first and then to Dayton.
Yeah, Wichita.
And then came back to Stetson.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, man, had to go through the ACL. Obviously had to sit out a year, then come back the year after that year. Started off that year pretty good. Then kept battling injuries. I could never be consistent. I was just an injury-prone player, I tell you that. Injuries in practice. At ECU one time, went up for a layup, high ankle sprain. They kept me out for some weeks. It was just crazy. And then obviously I tore my ACL again at Stetson when I finally back up with Coach Jones. The injuries were, you know, just unfortunate, but I kind of, you know, looking back on it, without those injuries, I learned a lot of life lessons from that. But yeah,
I can imagine tough. That's tough for an athlete. You know what I mean? Luckily, you know, I've been lucky having played basketball and football at a high level. I've never been injured, knock on wood, right?
Right.
But once you play and you devote that much time, especially, okay, so now you're at the D1 level, right? You put all this work and time into it. You go, you play, you practice, you scrimmage, you do all these things, and then all of a sudden it's taken away for an entire year. Like you grow up. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you were this way too. I mean, even when I was in high school or middle school or even elementary school, every lunch break, like at school, I was playing basketball. Over the summers, I was on the court from like 7 a.m. until like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So you do that every day, day in and day out, and then all of a sudden you can't. I can imagine that's got for an entire year. That's got to be difficult.
Yeah, man, it's difficult, man. It's more mental than physical. I tell you that. You know, the
Just to
hardest
trust him
part,
again.
right? It's just in my opinion, the hardest part about, and most people that had major injuries will tell you the hardest part isn't the injury itself; it's the rehab.
Yeah.
Like the ACL rehab is brutal, brutal. I will never forget the training we had at UCF. I forget her name.
Mary.
Oh no, not Mary. It was a physical therapist specifically for people that recover from ACLs. I forget her name. It was a blonde lady, real small petite lady. I forget her name. I wish I remember her name. If I could, I would have sit down and have a nice long talk with her. She was like one of the best people that ever ran across the UCF. But yeah, it was tough. But enough of all that ACL talk. Duke, 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 from
Oh,
from
we're
this
already
day
going to
on, it's like,
Duke? Oh
yeah,
boy.
it's like yeah, I want to go to Duke because obviously it's rumored that we're gonna be playing Duke in the Gasparilla. But let's talk about Duke basketball wise.
Well,
Basketball
Duke,
wise,
it's Georgia Tech now.
Yeah.
it's Georgia Tech.
It's
Yeah.
Georgia
Okay,
Tech.
okay. Because
That's
Hey,
why.
well, we're gonna.
That's why the bowl. It's Honey Boo Boo or Honey Badger with Brent
yeah,
Keith. He's the head coach now at Georgia
yeah,
Tech.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
I was about to get into that the tournament talk when we lost that game versus
Yeah,
Duke.
do that. Talk about it. Like, how'd that
when the
feel?
game
Like,
was taken from you. Let's be fair here. We all
It
saw
was
that saw the fouls on the boxing out. It
you know something.
what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
let
Yes.
him tell the story because I'm still mad about that one. I can imagine you are
Yeah, I want to
too.
hear the story.
Yeah, man. Just being obviously I wasn't playing was hurt, but just being there. First off, the atmosphere was insane. Like from the time you leave your hotel to the time the ride over there is just like I have never seen that many cameras like ever for like an event. I was like, yo, this is crazy. But just looking back on that game, one, I gotta give respect to our fans because obviously their Duke fans were highly in attendance, but I feel like our fans might have been louder in there. We had a good amount of fans that came, made the trip, and when we scored, it was like, okay, we here.
Oh, it was
It,
loud on TV. It was loud. You could hear
yeah,
it.
it was pretty. It was. I was impressed by the showing we had. As a school by our fans, so I appreciate them for that. But when we scored, it was like, okay, we got a little support here. Let's play hard. Let's get this win. So it came down to the end, obviously, and I think
That was
one
a
play.
game. That was a game of that game was back and forth. People got a lot of respect for UCF out of that game, not just because how it ended up in the end. It was never like somebody got a long run and then someone came back. It was always close. Like there was never a time in that game where it wasn't back and forth the whole game.
Back and forth the whole game. We would go up, they would go up. We would go up, they would go up, and it was like I know we ruined a lot of people's. We had a lot of people on their. They were
I'm
sweating when
betting.
well, yeah, with that betting stuff because I know
Yeah.
they were like, whoa, like what is going on? Well, we probably still broke a lot of people's bets because I know we covered it. I know we beat the spread for sure because we lost by one, I think.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll
Definitely
ask
beat the
you.
spread.
You're gonna have to tell us what you thought, what you were thinking when that layup and then afterwards the putback. Because I can tell you what I was
so
thinking.
close. So close.
The first off, that happened right in front of our bench, right? So the perspective of so BJ came from the right side and did it. First off, I thought BJ himself was gonna score it when he was going to his right side. That's like it's a good chance of that going in, but he missed it. And
Barely.
then when Aubrey came up, like we was like, if I could give it like a visual representation, we were like, it was almost like he was moving slow motion in the air, like slow motion, and then it was like, there's no way he could miss this. There's no way. There's no way you can miss that. And when it missed, it was just like the feeling of like, did that just roll off the rim? It was like my heart dropped into like
That's
my
just it too.
stomach.
It rolled around the rim and then out, rimmed out.
It
It
was
didn't
just
like
like
bounce off or like pop off the
oh,
side. It just went. It went around. I just remember looking at that. I'm like, when he went up for that second one, I was like, oh, this is going in.
man, it was almost like did somebody have controls on the rim at that point? Like it was like, oh
Someone magnetized the rim and had
yeah.
a magnet on the ball. Like repel, repel, repel.
Man, it was like what was it like? I don't know because Aubrey, it's the slim chance Aubrey misses that in any other game. But I
Yeah,
mean,
Aubrey was a good player too. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
he was
yeah,
very
for
He scored
sure.
32 in that game, man. He was
Yeah,
a
he
man on
was
fire.
his draft stock his stock period went way up in that game. He put the nation on notice with his performance in that game.
I think,
Also, a lot of other guys stepped up in that game too.
yeah, I was gonna say with I can't remember his name now. Who was the Duke player? Big Duke player.
They had
Zion Williamson.
Zion.
RJ
Yeah, when
Barrett
Zion,
was on that team.
everything that went into a Zion, everybody knew he was going to go to the draft after that.
Oh, yeah.
All the hype about him. He got the big shoe contract. All that stuff was going on around him. And it was like I remember the lead up to it was all going to be like Zion versus Tacko, right?
Yeah.
Tacko was there, but it wasn't about Tacko. Tacko played Zion tough, and I don't think Zion got the better of him, to be honest. I mean,
No, absolutely not.
So I think it really, all that energy was around that game for that tournament at that time in the tournament. That was the big game. I mean, ESPN was hyping it up. Everybody was hyping it up. Everybody wanted to see Zion. And then you guys came in there, and when you played the way, it almost felt like before the game, it was kind of like, okay, Duke's going to win this, blah, 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 blah. But then after it rimmed out, like the entire narrative for that week was UCF should have won that game.
Yeah.
Well, Coach K actually said that himself. They wasn't supposed to win that game. They weren't supposed to win that game. They really weren't supposed to win that game. That's like, it's not just we're saying that. There was calls like, I remember one time when Zion, BJ was guarding him. He bulldozed BJ, which was a clear offensive foul. BJ went flying. He spins into Tacko, goes into Tacko's chest, gets the and and we're just like, how was that not called an offensive? I'm talking about like, it was almost like a running back with holding the football.
Yeah.
Just running full speed ahead, charging somebody. They go flying, no call, like no call.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Those refs were bad, Dan.
Yeah, and I think it's that there was a couple of those that were no calls that got Tacko fouls that really put him on the bench. I mean, he was only in that game for about 2/3 of the game, about 25 minutes. But man, there was a bunch of those. There was the boxing, so that's the thing. At the end of the game, UCF's up by like 4, right? And we're doing great. We're doing everything we can do. There's free throws coming out, and then just multiple people. If I remember, it was RJ and Zion just like threw people out of the way
pushing it back on the free throw.
Clear. He hooked them.
It was like clear as they're in the ref on the free throw. By the way, the ref is standing right there.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And it still took RJ Barrett, with 11 seconds or so left to take them to a 1-point lead, of which we have multiple shots of getting something. I know. But see, that's the thing. I think, nowadays, I don't know how much of that would go under replay or some of the things. Maybe not. Maybe you just
it wouldn't. And I'll tell you why. I mean, think about Tacko all season that season, or any other season he was in. Yeah. They would call fouls on him just because he was such a big guy versus everybody else.
True.
he could stand there and put his arms up and like have his wrist bent down like this, and it was a foul. Like, because they'd say, oh, his hands weren't straight up and down. You know what I mean? He just was so big that like he would get stuff called on him all the time. And it was like the hack-a-shack kind of thing. There was, for a while there, I don't know if you remember that, people would foul him on purpose to get him through the free throw line as well. So, like, it wasn't fair to Tacko because a lot of the fouls that were called on him were just BS fouls because of his size.
Yeah,
definitely. It was kind of sad because he kind of got into foul trouble throughout his whole career, just because I think Coach Dawkins had to like complain to like the NCAA, or I forgot what he did, but like that he had to like make it like a statement like, hey, like you can't just call fouls on him. We understand a guy is 7'6", 300 pounds, but you got guys coming into him initiating the contact, and just because they go flying because they hit his body and they bounce off him, it's not a foul. He's just bigger than everybody,
Right.
So it was kind of sad because he used to have to sit down like early in the game just because to pick up 2 quick fouls, and it's like, yo, that wasn't even fouls. You're just big.
That's the thing, right? I think, and that was his entire career, and I felt bad for him. I mean, he did a lot of work, I know, physically to get to a point where he could get up and down the court consistently at his size, right? Because by the end, he wasn't as winded. I mean, it was like, was it Justin McBride that would go and like he started his first season and it was like, he's another just big dude, and he would pick up fouls, but he also couldn't. He couldn't. He'd get winded. And I remember Tacko was the same way.
Yeah.
So, and then towards the end, and then didn't you guys play them? Wasn't McBride on that team when we won the NIT team?
Oh, you mean when we went to TCU up in New York?
No,
he wasn't he on Illinois State or something like that?
Nah, he was on Val.
I don't think he was gone.
He was Valdosta.
Okay. I could have sworn there was another former UCF player that played for Illinois or Illinois State or something like that when we were doing it was that big home game we won at home.
I'm pretty sure you're right. Yeah, there was.
Checking.
All right, Josh will check that out because Nobra has no idea who we're talking about because, he was like in diapers at that point. So, Josh, if you'll check on that for me, I could have sworn he was in that game. So, but yeah, I mean, it was that whole series and with Tacko and everything, and that whole team. I mean, it just seemed like there were constantly injuries. They only had 1 year, right? You guys only had 1 year where everybody, which was the year we went to the tournament against Duke, where everybody pretty much stayed healthy. Aubrey got hurt. Like everybody else got hurt. It always seemed like somebody, 2 or 3 people, 2 or 3 key players would be pulled out of the rotation because they were hurt.
Always.
Yeah.
It was it was pretty unfortunate, but that's just what comes with the sport, man. It just some teams are fortunate enough to have everybody healthy all the time. Some teams are hit with the injury curse. So,
I mean, BJ there for a while too. He was doing really well and then he got injured.
Yeah, BJ BJ was pretty injury prone himself. If I'm being honest. I mean, he was he stayed injured. He didn't have any major injuries, but he had to miss him a lot of time due to injuries though. But yeah, man, it was fun time.
Josh just hit me up. He said the player that I'm referencing or misremembering is Banyard, who came from ISU.
Oh, so yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean now. Yeah, he transferred into us from
ISU.
Yeah, and then we went up there, and we beat ISU.
That was a close game too, if I recall.
Yeah, Matt. By the way, Illinois State had probably the top 3 wildest crowds I ever played in front of.
Really? What was crazy about them? Were they like cursing at y'all or what?
They were just loud. It was I was we none of us expected that crowd. It was like we didn't know the basketball tradition was like that in Illinois State. I mean,
Yeah.
it was. I would say Illinois State for me the craziest crowds I ever played in front of is ones you would probably never even think like Illinois State, Davidson, and if I had to choose a third one, Illinois State, Davidson, and I'm gonna have
How
to
was
go.
Memphis?
Memphis is all right, but I'm gonna have to go Cincinnati.
Yeah, it got pretty loud. I remember that. It always got pretty loud. The problem with Cincinnati, and what I remember from them, especially when Cronin was there, they used to be bowing people. I mean, they would like be super physical where they were basically clotheslining people in the middle of half court. Like, and I'm not even joking. I remember I was watching a game. You were on that team. And they were coming up the court. We were coming up the court with the ball. We were playing at home. And I kid you not, their guard literally clotheslined our whoever was bringing it up the court. Did not get called on it. They never got called for any of. They had some AAC bias going on for their basketball team. So does Houston, by the way. Always.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, Cincinnati was definitely the most physical team in the conference for sure. Like that was like a known thing. Like especially when you went to their place, it was yeah they were. You if you drop to the hole against Cincinnati, you're gonna get put to the ground like for sure. For sure.
So they were like they were the Boston Celtics or the Pistons of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, pretty
So,
much. Pretty much.
yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about Johnny Dawkins, like what it's like to be coached by Johnny Dawkins. Obviously, you had a different coach to start, and then you started working with Johnny Dawkins. I'm going to bring this up because Ben's going to be on next week, and Ben, his opinion is that he's cool with JD being kind of cool, calm, and collected on the sideline, right? And like for me, I'm just the opposite, right? Like if I'm playing basketball and my coaches were always fired up. They were always in the ref's ear, trying to get calls. And I think that stuff works. I mean, you look at Kelvin Sampson and those kind of guys. I don't remember who the guy was for Wichita State that was their really successful coach that ended up getting fired. Those guys are constantly in their ears. They're hyping up the bench when we go into lulls because it felt like we'd get into offensive lulls there for a while. And Johnny's just the opposite. He's super cool, calm, and collected. He might get off the bench and cross his arms and kind of walk the sideline and maybe throw a few whatever's in there. But that's about as heated as he gets. Now, I've seen him get heated like maybe 2 or 3 games where it was just like blatantly blatant. But yeah, Greg Marshall. Thanks, Josh. Greg Marshall was the other guy that was super heated all the time. What do you think about that? Do you think, like, having played for him, would you rather have a coach like Johnny that behaved that way, outside of his other coaching, but like behave that way on the sideline? Or would you rather have someone that was fiery like Kelvin Sampson, who took off half his clothes by the time you got to the first TV timeout?
Oh, Kevin Sampson definitely does that. I remember going there playing against him multiple times. He definitely does that. But with Johnny, I don't know. I feel like
Would that hype you guys up more, or the fact that he's a steady hand and showing confidence in you, is that better for you as a player?
I prefer the temperament of a Johnny. I do. Matter of fact, I think the temperaments of Johnny and Donnie were pretty similar actually. They both don't really I think Donnie might be a little more.
He's animated. He can get animated during the game.
Yeah, he can. He's a little more animated, but he's not like one of those in your ear type coaches. But as far as like Johnny, I feel like with him I like that better because when it's in a moment of real pressure in the game, in my opinion, I think it's better to have a coach that's calm. Not only because it's cool to have a coach that's fired up, in your ear, in your face all the time. But it's something about when you have a coach that's like calm in a tense situation, it calms the team at the same time. So when you go in that huddle, it's like, okay, this was going on. This is the situation. This is how we're gonna get out of this situation. Let's go out and do it. I got the utmost confidence in this group. We practice for these situations. Let's go out here and execute. That's more relaxing to a player than if the coach is all in your ear, and then when you go on the court, it's like more. It's almost like more pressure. Just me personally, I do prefer a Johnny temperament for a coach.
That's interesting.
With just a little splash of craziness. Not calm all the time. Because don't get me wrong, you know, he did most of his stuff in the locker room where you couldn't see it.
Well, that and I heard in practices he got after it a little bit too.
Yeah, yeah. So like, don't let him fool you. He's just more like in the moment when he knows he's being watched. He doesn't like to come out of character. He doesn't like to show that he's flustered. You know, he remains calm. So it seems like it may get on a lot of fans' nerves, but that's just his way of keeping his players calm, in my opinion.
Well, it's just funny because we all know how competitive Johnny Dawkins is. He was an NBA player. He was a rookie. He was the NBA or was he the NBA Rookie of the Year, I think. And he was the NCAA's top player his last season as well.
Hmm.
That man, you do not get there unless you're competitive on the court. Now, he wouldn't, from what I recall, he wouldn't talk trash from what I've seen of him, because I went back and looked at his film back when he was a player and all that other stuff. He wouldn't talk trash on the court, but he was hyper competitive. Like, he did not. You have to be at that level if you're getting those kind of accolades.
His play does the talking. Just like he feels like his coaching should do the talking, and in my opinion, right? He did take a team to the NCAA tournament. He did take a team to the NIT championship. So he has won at UCF as some level. I think I do think I do think Coach Donnie Jones recruits helped them a lot, right? Because
I agree with that.
at the end of the day, he did win with Coach Jones' talent,
Except for his son.
except for his son and a couple other recruits that he brought in. But the main baseline of the team was Donnie recruits. You know, and it's no knock on Johnny. Great dude. In my opinion, great coach. But I think after Donnie recruits left, I feel like it kind of went downhill from there.
All right.
Sure.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on that. I also think that Johnny's playing with a stacked deck right now, playing against a stacked deck right now. To be honest,
You mean by like funding on top of getting into the Big 12?
Well, yeah. Well, not even the Big 12 part. Like if you listen to Nightline, which was the predecessor to this one, that Ben and myself and Andrew and Trey were on, right? Before we headed into the Big 12, I questioned whether Johnny was the right guy to take us into the Big 12 and whether he could ever get us past where we are right now. Right. So Stanford, it was kind of the same thing, right? Stanford, when he was there for a really long time. And he got them to, NIT bids, and he got them to the tournament periodically, once every 3 years or so, whatever. Right. But UCF has always been aspirational. We've always been, okay, that's not good enough. We're not the 100, 200-year-old university where it's like, okay, we're playing, now we're at a P5 level. Now we're in the Big 12. we've always had to fight to get to that next conference. We've moved conferences on average every 8 years, and we've always done that by upping our ante and being able to dominate competition in conference. I don't feel like, and I love Johnny, know his wife, know him. They're great people, like someone I trust my kids with, right? I'm not sure Johnny has either the support, which is why I think he's hurting, right? 100% agree that UCF basketball is not where it needs to be when it comes to support. I think that'll change a little bit as we move along, but there was a time where we had this new practice facility entrance planned and all this other stuff, and none of that materialized. We did get some stuff, like we got some upgrades in facilities, but not at the level that it should be. We're finally able to afford, guys being chartered. I feel bad for you guys flying commercial all the time, because it's bad enough as just under 6 foot trying to sit in a commercial seat. You know what I mean? I can't imagine what it's like for people that are 6'6" or 6'8", whatever. But like I don't know. Like for me, like I think Johnny was a good stabilizing force. I think he'll get you what he's got so far, but I don't think he's the one that takes us to the next level. So at what point? Because I said, hey, he'll get another 2 years to get us in the Big 12 and get situated. Once the money starts flowing, it'll probably be the end of his run. Not because he's a bad dude, not because of anything like that. Love him to death. I'm not sure Johnny's the guy. And I didn't even want to like talk about this. This is just my opinion, and you can talk about it whether you want to or not. That's completely up to you. I'm not going to put you on the spot like that. But for me, that's kind of my outlook on it is like Johnny's got maybe a year or two, and he's getting better in the recruiting. He's bringing higher quality guys in, right, with the Big 12 tag, but it's still not where it needs to be to compete. Even the higher level AAC, when everybody was there, when Cincy was there and all of that stuff, we could compete, but I don't think we could win consistently. We couldn't do what Houston's doing. We didn't have the jump man on our chest, right? So, and we didn't have Tillman Fertitta or whatever his name is, like spending all kinds of money on facilities, and now you've got NIL there and basically unlimited transfers and everything else that he's battling. So you need a coach that's going to be able to counteract some of that and going to be able to draw booster money or at least investment somewhere for all that to happen. I don't think Johnny's going to get us there. So the question is how long does he last before we can invest? And you don't have to answer any of that. I just want to put that out there. That's just my take on it.
No, I mean, I really have no problem answering it, really. To be honest, I think he does get on paper better recruits on paper, but I don't think these guys are more talented than the guys that we've got in the past. That's just my honest opinion. I don't even think high school basketball is as strong as it used to be honest with you. That's just my honest opinion. You got some high recruits coming in, obviously with Hendricks. I think the guy he's got coming in next year is a highly recruited guy. There's some other guys, some good transfers. He got that came in.
I'll tell you what, I like Ibrahim on our current team. I think
great defensive player.
He impresses, and he's got a little bit of offensive game too. We just need more inside out. Is my thing
for sure. And I think if you talk about basketball in today's age, you kind of have to have a big that's able to step out. Yeah. Like if you think about Kansas, right? The best player in the country right now is probably on Kansas's team, arguably, and that guy can knock down threes, and he's the center or big power forward on the team.
Hey, we got Scylla. He thinks he can throw three-pointers from across the half court and make it consistent.
He knocks one down.
Well, you know what? Actually, now let me put an asterisk.
We we gotta wait until some actual competition is being played.
Well, even last year though, Scylla, like, I used to get so frustrated when he'd go out there and hang out by the 3-point line and then he'd just chuck a shot up, right? But his 3-point percentage last year, I think, was actually somewhere like 37-38%. So he's making them. It's just like, should he be the one that's shooting them, and can he do it at volume? And that's what we're seeing now. You know what I mean? Because if you're doing that, your big's got to be, there for the rebound. And if he's out there shooting the three, he's not going to be in there. His size advantage goes away.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Even with Stetson coming in there, Stetson has a bigger team than him on paper. I think that game was a big eye opener for them.
Oh, they
Because
took it. They took it easy, because I can tell you this right now. They were beating that Stetson level type team, especially defense. This team's identity, and Johnny's been on has been defense this whole time. I mean, even the team we just played, Lipscomb, they play that Princeton offense, shooting 3-pointers. Basically, Stetson was a carbon copy of that, and you could see what the difference was, in that Stetson game versus that Princeton game. And they said it. Johnny ran them through the ringer last week, like when on their week off, right? And they deserved that, because they didn't lock in for Stetson at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of funny because you would think they would, being that the former coach is coming in, and that that was big.
They don't know him. They don't know him. It's not like, who's Donnie Jones to them.
Yeah, I mean, I heard people in the crowd being like, "Oh, be quiet, Donnie." Say a little stuff.
Oh,
like
the crowd
that.
knows. We all know who Donnie is,
Yeah.
right? Like, we all know who Donnie is, but the players don't know any.
No. They know him, one, because anytime Coach Dawkins is playing anybody that's so how can I put this? So the next game is playing against Jacksonville, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the one kid on UCF's team came from Jacksonville.
Okay.
He transferred from Jacksonville, I believe.
Right.
So one thing that Johnny always does, and he's done it since I've been there, anytime we play against a team that's connected to anybody on our team, he makes it clear that we need to take care of this game. We got the guy that just came from this school. We need to handle business for that guy, not just for ourselves, but it means a lot for this guy.
Really?
So I know when Donnie came in, when they played against him, I know 100% for a fact that it was made as a point that, hey, this is the former coach that coached here. He makes that a staple for the game. Like, that's like a talking point. Even with Nick Banyard, when we went to go play against Illinois State, that was a talking point.
So what do you think happened? What do you think happened during the Stetson game? Did they just get whooped? I mean, they were up and then just let up.
I think Stetson came to play because I think Donnie did the same thing that Johnny probably did. Was like, hey, they all know that Donnie got fired from UCF. Donnie is burning to beat UCF just because for that reason. So they prepared. By the way, I went to a couple of Stetson's practices, by the way, because I still keep in touch with Donnie, like, very closely. And one of his points was like, "Hey, I feel like we can beat this team." He didn't feel like UCF is that good of a team. He felt like they can go in there and beat them. When they did,
The problem UCF has right now as a team, in my opinion, is we don't have consistent 3-point shooting right now. So we're two-dimensional. We're trying to do, if you watch, we're trying to execute pick and rolls, and we're not doing that really well. Shamari Allen is great defensively, but he disappears for games, and we're struggling to find who that other shooter is going to be or who that other scorer is going to be. Because you got DJ. DJ's been off. and his 3-point shot's been
Yeah.
off ever since he switched it from that flat arc to that rainbow shot he's got going on halfway through the season when he got injured. So like our 3-point percentage is way down. The best 3-point shooter we have right now is the German transfer, Marcus, whatever his name is, from Berlin. But he has to have a set shot. Like he's not going to create his own. He's
a catch and shoot type guy.
Exactly. That's all he is.
Yeah.
So he's not going to create. He can't dribble all that great. So he's got to be the guy that's going to catch the ball. And he may, hopefully they coach him up out of that, right? Because he's got a good set shot. But I played in Europe too. And in Europe, when you play there and you learn there, it's all about the extra pass and getting someone open.
Mm-hmm.
With the American game, it's not that way. They teach shooters, they teach the extra pass. The American game is not that way.
The American game is actually a lot more selfish than overseas.
100%.
Every player will tell you that. It was, I know a lot of guys that obviously play overseas, and all of them come over and say, hey, man, them guys are way more fundamental than we are. Way more fundamental to make the extra pass. They're not really caring about who scores the most points. It's just next pass, who's open. This is the best shot we getting. That got a shot. This guy's hot. We're gonna make sure we hit him every time. We're gonna hit the big man. We're gonna make sure the big man gets a touch. Pass it back out. Pass it back in. Hit the corner. It's all fundamental. I feel like an American game, and it varies. It varies depending on coach and team. But you have teams that are like more passive than others. But for the most part, in the American game, it's more of 2-man pick and roll type.
ISO.
ISO. I'm the guy. Nobody else touch the ball in this moment type game. And it's just not that way. And I feel like the Marcus kid, he kind of like, it's almost like a shock maybe for him, because it's like, man, like when I came over here, I thought it was gonna be like a team thing. Like, nah, it's not like that at all. Like these guys are trying to.
He's not at a point where he can create on his own. His ball handling skills are not there. The Lithuanian kid is like lost.
The Marcus kid this might sound crazy, but the Marcus kid would do great on a team like almost like a Stetson. Almost he would probably be a star on Stetson's team, just because they more of a passing hit the open guy type team. But when it depends on the team you choose to go play with. Right now UCF isn't that team, sadly. So he's going to.
The other bad thing for us too is we aren't really good at defending the 3-point line. We do it in spurts, but there's a lot of times where we get switches or we miss on the extra pass where we're double teaming inside instead of making sure that we're covering the perimeter shooter. So I don't know if that's now we did better this last game where we still disrupted. We got close enough in the air where we're in his face and he has to think about whether and change the trajectory. The shooter has to change the trajectory to a higher arc to get over the player that's jumping. But there were way too many times this year where we didn't get to the three ball shooter who was in the corner or wherever because we're collapsing on the defense. And what we were doing defensively is we were switching back to man when that was happening, right? And that's okay. We can switch. We've seen press, a lot more press this year and a lot earlier in the game, whether it's 2-man. I've seen some traps that have been missing where we've started press, we get somebody trapped, and then they pull off of the trap. Then I've seen, defensively, we don't, and I can't put my finger on it, whether we're just double teaming to bet on the paint, but there are a lot of teams that have been coming in that are, if you do the research on them, they're a high percentage 3-point shooting team. So you think about Miami last year, right? What did Miami do? They just sat back there and drained trays. That's part of the game, small ball. And I think what we do have this year is we have the ability to run small ball where we haven't in the past because we haven't had the depth in the bench. But now we actually have shooting, or we don't have the shooting that we had in years past. You know what I mean? And that's the problem I think we have for this year is we can't shoot the tray as well. I mean, we're averaging 30 some points. If you're going to be an inside game type of team, you got to be able to shoot free throws better than 60%, right?
You also need to
And
be able to pass out of double teams because that's what both
Yep.
Lipscomb and Stetson was doing, and that was not happening too.
Yeah.
Also, kind of back to some of that stuff too, though.
well, that's
Yeah.
what I was saying, inside
Yeah.
out. We just
Yeah.
we don't do that very well.
We don't, and I will say a lot of the Stetson from my perspective, and Chance has probably forgotten more about basketball than I do, but I've played a little bit. It doesn't look like it, but for the first like quarter to half of the first half or almost the first full half in Stetson, they were not fighting through screens and going under, and they were shooting threes on top of coming under the screens all day long. That combined with not being able to pass on the offense they doubled every single time a big got anywhere near the paint, and it wasn't pretty. So there was a bit of that, and then they kind of shot out of their mind at the end of the game. But I will say this: so that was Stetson, and I'm sure everyone got an earful from that. We were talking about the text talks. We were texting on the Lipscomb game, and you were kind of talking about Machowski a little bit, the German, as you say, from
it's not the German, it's Z German. Come on now, if we're gonna use the German nomenclature, let's do it right.
Keyboard.
The German, the German.
Yeah, really.
As a half German person,
come on, I know
English is a second language. That's how you say that. It's the German.
That's fair. I won't judge. When he and Comey and Hendricks came off the bench, it wasn't even like we were right next to like
Comey.
The 16 or the 12. Oh yeah, no, I'm with you there.
Comey is gonna be a star.
It wasn't 30 seconds before the 12-minute timeout, right? They came in and there was some energy and excitement. There was some three. I think Tyler made 2 threes in that game, right? So I feel like there's a general idea of what's going on, but there's some play with who, like Avery kind of shoots threes every so often, and they, him when he's in the game, their plus minus, whether you believe in that stuff or not, is usually pretty good. There's pieces here, but it doesn't seem like they're a fluid together team for a full basketball game yet.
How could they be, though? They were just thrown together. I mean, that's been
fair.
Part of our problem this whole time is we've had so much fluctuations. It takes, if you play basketball, which is what surprised me early on with this team, is how well they were doing in passing and anticipating and all that stuff. When you play basketball, and Chance, I'd love for you to speak to this. When you play basketball and you throw a team together, it takes a minute for them to come together and really be able to anticipate, okay, if this person's doing this, I know his strength is this, so I'm going to make sure I look for this pass or whatever. So can you kind of speak to how long it takes a team to come together like that?
Yeah, definitely. When you got a team that's, a lot of that has to do with the transfer portal now, right? So it's kind of hard for teams to build a team that all the guys are together for 3 or 4 years, right? So you're almost forced to have teams, being put together just on a whim based on the transfer portal, because guys can just transfer and play immediately. Guys are transferring to get NIL deals. Guys are transferring for all other reasons besides really basketball now. So, you got what happens is the game gets away from team. It becomes more of individualized. It becomes more of, okay, we are here together as a team, but at the end of the day, I need to make sure I need to get my stats. I need to make sure I'm good. I make sure my NIL deals are locked in. Because I hate to be the one to say it, a lot of these guys are playing for bigger NIL deals. Just saying, that's just me. But
I mean, you play the game that's out there, right? You go by the rules that's out there. I'm sure Tacko might have been in that situation.
Yeah. I mean,
Brandon Goodwin before you got there. There's people would have gotten their bags there's a lot of people that wouldn't have been around for 4 years here.
All right. So
Right.
the question is, are they getting McDonald's bags
That's old school.
or are they getting Chick-fil-A? Because Chick-fil-A is a little higher than what the McDonald's bag is.
Burns.
So, I don't want to throw what no players are making, but the highest paid player on the team right now is Sellers, and he's making a pretty penny right now on NIL.
Good.
Like a pretty penny.
He's playing like it. Well, when they handed the ball, that was the thing that I didn't get in a couple of other games. Like without Sellers in that Stetson game, there would have been a problem.
They would have lost by 40 or 50.
It would have been
Sellers,
a problem.
Sellers is a good player. Like he is a solid scorer. Like he's the guy that you can put the ball in his hands, and because he's a multi-level scorer, right? He's not just okay. I'm only going to dry the paint. He's got a good 10 to 12 foot shot, right? Like he can turn around and hit a jumper, and he can hit the 3-point, the 3-ball every once in a while too. So, like, he's the most complete scorer I think we have on our team.
Oh, most definitely, without a doubt. I mean, like you said, 3-level scorer, not afraid of contact. I mean, the guy just has a full package when it comes to the offensive end. And just to go back to what we were saying about the chemistry of a team, when you got like guys transferring in from different schools, different systems, it takes a while. I mean, and I feel like they should use conference play. I mean, out of non-conference play, to use that as a chance to kind of figure out their identity as a team. Because once you get into conference play, there's no time to figure out your identity as a team. You just have to, you have to be ready to play, especially in a conference like Big 12, when one of your first games is Kansas. There is gonna be no time to figure out.
I don't think it would matter if they had a whole season against Kansas, to be honest. Let's be real.
By the time you figure out who you are, you figure it out by halftime, you're already down by 50. So you might want to come into the game already knowing.
Easy. It's gonna be like 20. Come on.
Well, I mean, let's be real. Let's be real. Like Johnny, okay, so this is from the coaching perspective, right? Johnny has been doing a lot of different lineups to see which ones mesh best in what situations. If you don't understand some of these subs, it's because he's playing with the lineups to see which ones work together in the best situations. Who's the best 4 if you're going to go small ball? Who's the best, if they're subbing 2 of their bigs out, but you still want a size advantage, who are you going to put in there that's going to be able to play? It's like Scylla frustrates me so much. Like he's got some tools, but he just plays, and Payne's the same way. His fouls, some of his fouls are so, I'm just going to say this is going to sound terrible, but dumb. They're like dumb fouls. It's like Payne's got the ability to shoot. He's got the ability to play defense. His problem is he's now in a league that's not going to give him the benefit of the doubt anymore on those foul calls. So you got to be even more cognizant of when you're doing it and how you're doing it and how you're playing.
In Lipscomb, he got 2, I think, easy ones to get him up to 4 in like the first couple of minutes of the second half. I don't think he got into the game after that. It just kind of, and you can see what's there. Like he is a good player, but you can't be a good player with 2 easy early fouls in both halves of a game. You're just not going to play.
You can't. You got to go to the bench.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
so Chance, we are obviously we love basketball, like Josh and I both do. We love football. I've played both at a high level. So, Josh played rec league, but
I played in the Y. I was okay.
But the point is I want to be cognizant of your time, because I know we're now an hour and 10 minutes in, and you had a time limit, and I didn't even get through 3 of my points that I wanted to talk about with you, because as you can tell, I'm a big hoops guy, and I think we could talk for hours. So one, I told everybody that we'd be having you on, right? And I'd really like for you to come back and talk some more hoops with us. And I'd love it if you and Ben were on here too, because it's not just them, but Ben as well. Having you both on here. But I want to be cognizant of your time. So
All good.
I could have you talk about thoughts on getting in the Big 12, what you expect out of this team, what's the team performance so far. But I think we're going to back pocket that because I want to be cognizant of your time. So let me do this for you. Why don't you real quickly plug your because you got your own little thing that you got growing, and I'd love for our audience to hear about it so that they can check your stuff out too. Where can they find your thanks, Josh. So I don't know if you found the comment section here, but we send little quips to each other all the time. Apparently I'm not being cognizant of your time. So where can they find you on your content? And I promise Chance and I have had some conversations outside of this, and obviously the expectation is we have him on more often. So Chance, where can they find your content and follow you?
No doubt. On Twitter, obviously show out Chance 22. Instagram, same thing, show out Chance 22. As well as now I'm into roofing. Actually work with 3MG, which is, as you guys know, you see 3MG everywhere at the football games. One of
UCF owned.
Yep. So I just want to promote myself on that tip. So if any of you guys is watching, need a new roof, feel free to reach out to me on all my socials that I just mentioned at ShowOutChance22. That's what I do now. I'm happy to be working for a UCF company. Best company I've worked for since I've been out of college. I see myself working here long term. They treat me well. And we just got voted the best roofing company in Orlando. So,
Awesome.
With that being said, if you guys need a new roof, I'm your guy. If you know anybody, I'm your guy. And yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you guys today. Definitely looking forward to being on more. I enjoy talking hoops a lot. And yeah,
so do we clearly.
Yeah.
And specifically with you, seriously, Chance, love it. Love that we get your perspective, and we're definitely going to have you on some more. Loved you as a player. We got to talk a little bit outside of this. We'll keep that conversation going. I don't know. Maybe we'll invite you to the group chat so you can see us all spaz out on the basketball games. Definitely have you back again. So thank you so much for your time. And we appreciate you, man. And we'll be in touch.
No problem, man. Maybe we can go to a bar someday or something like that.
Hey, got one right here. I'm just saying, it's right near the beach. But yeah, I'll definitely be down. So you let me know.
All righty, man. Hey, pleasure being on here with you guys. Have a nice night, man.
You too. Take care.
Yep.
Thanks. It's great. That was great.
That was amazing. Alan's like, I don't speak hoops, so
it's okay. We gotta get hoops.
I know a lot about UCF basketball from previous years, his time here, but you guys were doing a lot of talking, so I just let it happen.
hey, just let it happen, Alan.
It's
just
never
let it happen.
Apparently, Roger played.
Why are we not hitting the B in the chat right now? Come on, seriously, no, bro. But
it's hard to get a word in, so I was like, it's flowing. I'm just gonna let it go.
It's hard. No one's ever told me that I talk too much.
Oh my God,
that was my first beat at UCF was UCF basketball. I covered from 08 to 11.
You didn't tell me that. Hold on,
I was the head UCF basketball writer for Central Florida Future for 3 years.
Oh boy, I didn't know that about you.
I've interviewed.
We're peeling away the layers of the onion.
The Allen
I've
onion.
a bunch of interviews like Ramsa, Tristan Spurlock, who else from back in the day? All that Isaiah Sykes, that team.
Good players too.
Yeah.
for a
So
good
why
chance.
why haven't they been? Why maybe you should like invite some of them for some segments. I'm just saying.
I could definitely invite some of the. I talk to more of the football players now, but I could definitely. Yeah, I could
I
definitely
could be able to get Tristan Spurlock. I've talked with him a bit. I might be able to get him on.
Yeah, I mean, I still talk to Zeke. I still talk to.
Talked to AJ a couple of times. I think he said he would. He just said he's always busy.
Well, I believe that he's always been there.
He's an
Casey
influencer
Wilson, like BJ. Obviously, we're gonna have BJ on at some point this season. He's busy calling games now, so. But I talk to him still all the time. He's just genuinely good dude. And obviously Chance. We'll have Chance on a lot more. Love talking hoops with him. Also a really, really good dude. And I love that he's real. Speaking of real, Trey Neal just texted me. And he's going to take one for the team. And he said he's loading up now, which in Trey time means he'll be here in 20 minutes. But I think
you need to qualify that, Roger. When we're prepping for this, we're usually on 8:30, 8:40 or something like that, and Trey's usually close to the pin. Let's qualify that. Today I was doing some research.
Did you spell it the right way or the University of West Central Florida way?
The research. Yeah, I did some research. And what I did was I made a graphic with some planes of schools that will never be in a conference with that team. So yeah, I did the research.
All right.
These are things that should be the NOAA Re-Education. We should talk about all of that entire.
We didn't even get to that. I talked to Chance about maybe like providing some things to re-educate our student. Because here's the crazy thing, right? Chance, it wasn't that long ago when Chance played. But there's a whole crop of students that have no idea about that entire basketball team.
And that's pretty.
And that's sad.
Yeah, I'm just now. I was at actually Madison Square Garden for the TCU versus UCF NIT game, but I think that was a little older. But yeah, I mean, just the NIT. Oh, interesting. There was because now we're playing TCU in regular games, so that's kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, there's those teams like that NCAA team, the NIT team. There was sadly, it feels like it was a very Scott Frost, George O'Leary situation where you had, like Trey's talked about it all the time, where you had the George O'Leary structure. And then the more openness of Scott Frost with some of O'Leary's players, right? But probably more equal, if you will, of Frost players. And you have those things coming together to make magic. That kind of happened with Johnny Dawkins too. I mean, there was a lot of great players on that team, and his son BJ and Tacko were like most of the scoring in that NCAA game. So it's interesting. Chance brought a lot of great information, and that Sellers had a bag. That's I didn't know that. I don't know if that's pretty popular information.
Look who it is! It's Trey Neal.
Look at that.
That's dedication.
Yeah, I know, on your girlfriend/wife's birthday, because Roger said both earlier in this program, and I don't even know if he caught that.
All right, so let me say this about that. Okay, so Trey, I'm going to put you totally on the spot here. Where did you take her out to dinner?
Oh, we went to an Italian restaurant. I forgot the name of it. It's a weird name here. Let me tell you. We went to a place called.
Did you get her a wine bottle? And if so, what did you get her?
She didn't want any wine. She's feeling stuffy, so she didn't want any.
Oh, you lucked out. You got the cheap date tonight.
Let me see.
Yeah, for those of you not watching this, Josh just made some interesting gestures.
Yeah, that was me zipping my mouth, so I would not say something referring to Trey's wonderful wife is a cheap date.
Okay, so that Nobra didn't have to edit that. Is that what you were saying?
No, it's fine. We have some other things. I think we had our first legit F-bomb with Chance. He
had one earlier too. I don't remember what he said, but he had one earlier that he said that Noda's gonna. Yeah.
So the place
was no thinking. That was a legit one.
It was called Sapor di Mar. So I don't even know if I said it right. So
all right, would you recommend it?
Yeah, it was really good for Italian.
What did you have?
I had a lobster over some gnocchi, something.
Gnocchi, bro. You
You
don't have lobster at an Italian restaurant. What's wrong with you?
It was good.
Gnocchi is good though.
I had steak yesterday, so I was like, easy. I'll take it easy. I don't want chicken.
We're at an Italian restaurant. You're gonna eat steak.
I had it yesterday. Don't want to have too much steak.
Oh, bro. All right, I'm just gonna leave it at that. For the uninitiated, the gnocchi was good. So that's
gnocchi,
good.
Amazing.
Do any of you not know Italian? Gnocchi.
It was amazing. Gnocchi, yeah. My wife can say it. My wife says it perfectly. I can't say it.
Yeah.
So I speak German, not Italian.
Yeah, I'm the one who's joke, but 10 years of Italian, but it's all good.
All right, so we got Trey back just in time. We just finished up literally
talk about basketball
with Chance McSpadden talking about basketball. It was a great conversation. Loved having him on. We're going to have him on again. I told the guys beforehand we were going to do a little text talk. I know you're coming in late in the game, so I'm going to let the other two start. So, Alan, if you want to start with text talk, what did you have this week?
All right. Well, since I'm first now, I'm on the spot here. Hold on.
I gotta find mine too, Alan.
All right, Josh, you're not going to go last this time. Go ahead.
I'm going to put this up on the show notes. And here's the thing. So when we did the show notes, I will give you some behind the scenes here. The show notes said text talk ? And nothing else. So I didn't know what we were going to be talking about.
I put the question mark there because I wasn't usually. I've always considered text talk for the games. I didn't.
Yeah, we didn't have a
So
game.
we could talk about So what do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the college?
I was going to use this as the playoff lead in and the bowl lead in, but my gosh, like I was thinking something about maybe the Duke. That's why it also says in the notes we should do this, but from the college football playoff chat. So if you read all of the notes, you would know that yes, and not to mention I said this before the show too while Chance was here.
I was late. I was fashionably late.
Oh, you were late. So okay. All right. That's an excuse. All right. So let's talk about bowl game. Let's why don't you guys pull something about the bowl game? Obviously, we were all over the place. First, it was the Mayo Bowl, and our first opponent, according to Brent McMurphy, was supposed to be Duke in a rematch of last year's bowl
with Gasparila. There was some rotations, but I don't think Mayo was ever even a part of it. It was always.
I'm not talking about Duke Mayo. I'm talking about the opponent. Is what I said was Duke. Yes, not the Duke's Mayo.
I see the ratings going down.
I mean, gosh, come on now. So anyway, we're talking about Duke, as in Duke football, not Duke Mayo. After last week, I'm not sure I should say more about that. But originally that was what came out from McMurphy. Turns out that it is not going to be Duke in our bowl game. It's actually going to be Georgia Tech. And I will tell you, there were rumors which Duke ended up playing. Who's the G5 team?
Troy.
They're going to play Troy. So we actually got the better end of the deal because we were worried that we were going to end up playing Troy and the Gasparila there for a while. And part of our text talk was really Troy and the Gasparila. And so I'm glad we ended up against a P5 team, against a P5 team that we didn't play last year in a bowl. And there are UCF ties, obviously the O'Leary Bowl, right? Obviously, we know that the head coach over at Georgia Tech also was at UCF, Brent Key. He did tell us during his press conference while he announced it live that he as soon as the game was over, he was going to start prepping for UCF. We heard that he cried last year when they lost the last time we played them. He was very, very upset, and that he was going to be in his office until 4 a.m. Working on bowl prep after the press conference. So what do you guys have for your text talks?
Man, we were going back and forth on all these text messages, and I don't think we really believed what the heck was going on, because usually when someone puts out there that this was, these are the matchups, those are the matchups, and it was just insane what was going on. So I had a couple. A lot of us were kind of like, how do we feel about this? And, I was kind of like Miami. Well, a couple of things. So there's a couple of teasers, and we might talk a little bit about this, but one of them was the Pop-Tart Bowl versus Miami, because that was ACC versus Big 12. That was something that some people kind of thought might be a thing. The Pop-Tart Bowl got NC State versus Kansas State. All I'm saying, and I put this in, Miami versus Orlando in the Pop-Tart Bowl would have sold 72,000 tickets. But the ACC fight for bowl games seems to be pretty big. And that was all these different teams. It sounds like someone didn't realize that Duke and UCF played in a bowl game last year. And
that's plausible, honestly.
It's quite plausible. I wish I could forget the memory of that game too. But there was this big infighting. But I'm going to check where Miami. I think Miami's up in Rutgers in New York in the Bad Boy Motors Pinstripe Bowl. I know Georgia Tech and UCF is it's going to be a good game. It's good for TV. There are a lot of tie-ins. But really, I think we would have done better, both numbers on the actual game day, and actually done better for the city if we were in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So that was my text talk about Miami versus Orlando. And we talked about how that could have been theoretically a possibility. I noted if we didn't have the potential teaser that Miami versus UCF could be a thing in Orlando, I don't think anyone's all too disappointed in this game, whether it's Duke or Georgia Tech, to be honest.
I would have been disappointed with Duke. That was my like, as soon as you said UCF versus Duke in the Gasparila, I was like, Duke again? Come on. And I turned my phone off because I was like, I'm not doing this.
Oh, wow. So we went from yelling at Cloud to throwing our phones. Okay, got it.
I'm not doing it.
Well, the way I looked at that, and to be honest with you, I told you guys, and I think Nobra like really encapsulated this last week, where he said, Roger's not flying in a G6, right? So like, I'm sorry, but I'm glad that we got who we got. I mean, I know we played Georgia Tech in recent years. We had the one that was canceled. There are storylines there. We still get to stay in the state of Florida. It's pretty much a home game. They're reasonably good offensively. So, I think it'll be a good matchup for us. And obviously the storyline with Brett Key, I'm much more happy about that than playing Troy or Duke for that matter, although it would have been nice to get, they lost their head coach and Josh is muted. They lost their head coach.
Yeah.
And they lost their quarterback. So it would have been nice to kind of kick their teeth in a little bit, but that's not what happened. I'm perfectly fine with this. This is the best of a situation. I think the ACC stepped in and said, really?
Yeah.
And that's what ended up happening. That's why the announcement took so long. UCF knew that they were going to the Gasparila Bowl. They had no idea who their opponent was going to be.
Yeah. And
all right.
That's probably the best we could have gotten, other than saying Miami. But again, they get to go to New York.
Well, Miami, I'm sure they will lose in New York. Because it's cold and freezing and everything else.
Yeah.
So
don't they play on the Yankee Stadium up there?
They do.
Yeah.
So they get to play on baseball turf. I think didn't we play there one time in the Pinstripe Bowl?
I don't think
I didn't in my time.
I think we were supposed to and didn't end up playing there or something like that because it was a ACC or AAC bowl too. So, all right, Alan, text talk for you this week.
I just thought it was funny. I think of someone said I'll ask Coach Key at 4 a.m. when we're still it was still undecided on who we were going to play. That the Big 12 actually had tweeted out twice that we were playing Duke, and then they deleted both tweets. So that period, and obviously referred to Coach Key's statements like you alluded to, Roger. So that was my text talk for this week.
All right. I don't know if you've had time, Trey. No. Okay.
Well, I said the one that I said was, again, Duke again when Josh had to let us know that we were playing Duke the first time. And I was like, I'm done. And I think I didn't even look at my phone. Like I was mad.
All right, so let's talk about, this kind of leads us into, we're playing GT in the Gasparila Bowl on the 22nd, early signing day is the 20th. So we're not going to be able to have those extra bowl practices, right? That was something we were looking forward to.
For the signing guys, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So last year we had some extra bowl practices that we got John Walker in. We're not going to be able to do that this year with these guys. They might be able to get one in. Well, no, because depends on when the travel day is.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll get in
before then.
Yeah,
not like a practice where you'd want to see them. It'd just be like a walkthrough, maybe.
Yeah. So I think we're going to miss out on that. Overall, you just heard my thoughts on Georgia Tech. What do you guys think as an opponent for Georgia Tech? Is that something that would excite you to travel to Tampa from Orlando?
Yeah, I mean,
I think that was it right there. B, it's like I asked that question and the first response is pregnant pause.
No, I was just waiting if anyone else was going to hop in, but
yeah, that's why I stopped too.
No, I mean, to travel, I'll be traveling from South Florida, and yeah, I mean, any game that's in the state of Florida, I look at as a good opportunity for myself and our fans to go to. I mean, if it's not going to be near a Six Bowl, I'd prefer it to be in the state of Florida. I mean, it is cool to be able to travel and go other places, but I usually go to one road game a year anyways. So for, a bowl game that's not like super exciting, and I'd rather, it's not near six, I'd rather be in state. I'm not trying to travel anywhere too far for a game that, is ultimately doesn't matter too much in the big scheme of things. So, I think it's great to have it in state. I think now this is our seventh bowl game in the state of Florida, out of the 14 that we've been to. I think it's great for travel. I think makes it a lot easier for our fans. It makes us have home field advantage. I would assume we'll have more fans travel than Georgia Tech, even though it's not super far for them either, but obviously way closer for us. As far as the opponent, at 6-6, I don't think, beggars can be choosers. I wasn't really anticipating some amazing opponent or anything like that. If anything, I'm just happy, like we all stated, it's not Troy or Toledo. So to play an ACC team, a second straight opponent or a third straight opponent that's Power 5 for our bowl games, I'm happy with that. Only thing I wish would just be the cool thing in a kind of a meaningless bowl game like this would be cool to play like a new team. Like Duke was new. We'd never really played them before. Georgia Tech, this is actually going to be our sixth time playing them in school history. And we actually played them last year, like you said. So other than that factor, I'm just happy that it's a Power 5 opponent at ACC. There's some cool storylines of being George O'Leary, Brent Key. Played them last year, so a lot of the same players still on both sides, both teams. So overall, I'm not disappointed by it. We were 6-6. We weren't going to have some, 10-2, 11-1 opponent or something like that.
Yeah, and the crazy thing, like even Brent Key mentioned it in his like little live broadcast there, where it was asked where O'Leary. Yeah, he said the biggest. You didn't ask about the biggest controversy at all, where O'Leary was going to sit, and he basically said he's going to sit on our sideline. He's my guy. Blah 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 blah.
Where does he have a statue though?
Yeah, I know. But I mean, you pretty much, if you're O'Leary, being, as much history as he has with Georgia Tech, if Brent Key comes out and says he's going to be sitting on my sideline, he's my guy, you kind of got to do it. Even if there was a choice before, unless you like switch at the half or something like that, you kind of got to do it now. So, and what's funny about it is we are actually closer to the Cows Stadium or the Cows, campus, not stadium, because that got canceled again. Not canceled, but like rebidded.
Eventually.
Rebidded, right? And they are actually going to be in South Florida, in the real South Florida, in the Boca Raton Bowl. So I don't know if that's more appropriate or less apropos, because we know that Tampa is UCF's hometown team.
They won 6 games.
They won 6 games. Yeah, they did.
That's what happens when you get the 3 best teams out of the conference and you do a little bit better. So yeah,
Props to them.
Yeah,
maybe.
But
they're not a good coach.
Yeah, they're not playing. They are not playing UCF. They're not playing Cincinnati. They're not playing Houston anymore. So
that's 3 losses right there. Makes sense.
At least 3. So by the margin. Well, I can't say about UCF because for whatever reason they play us close because it's rivalry weekend. I will say that I kind of miss getting up for that game because Houston. I mean, it was good, but there's no rivalry there. There's just not. And Holgerson's out now, so we got rid of another coach. But
USF also avoided. Tulane.
Hold on. No. Rephrase that. You can't say the directionally challenged.
Cal U also.
There you go. All right, move.
They also avoided Tulane and SMU, which were the 2 best teams in the conference, and they and then the one decent team that played Memphis, they lost. So yeah, they stacked up all their wins against bad competition.
Well, and SMU and Tulane, I mean, that was interesting because Tulane lost that game in the championship with Willie Fritz reportedly going. It was reported during the game that he's going to Houston.
Scott Frost.
Yeah,
one of those.
I think he still wore a green shirt walking in. I'm just
probably
saying.
did.
The Cows only beat one team that was above. That was 500. I wouldn't even say above 500. That was 500 in FBS, which is good because they haven't beat too many FBS teams last 3-4 years. So, but yeah, they're beating 2-9, 2-10.
A lot of conference newcomers they beat.
Yeah.
All right, so we know that the Cows. Do you know who they're playing in the Boca Bowl?
Syracuse.
Syracuse
doesn't have a coach.
Yeah, they just fired Babers, UCF's former coach. Close your eyes and imagine that you have a coach on the sideline. But whatever. Man. Hey, they're in the real South Florida, and we'll be playing in their hometown at their stadium. So I'm sure most of Tampa appreciates that anyway. So, all right, now that we've said that, I'd like to kind of talk a little bit before we get into, I guess, because I kind of wanted to wait for Trey's take on this for the text talk because he had a pretty strong take on the college football playoff, but it ties in the bowl. So let's kind of pivot a little bit here and talk about the transfer portal. The transfer portal opened. UCF has lost 5 so far to the transfer portal. Tyler Griffin, Jalen Griffin, Jordan McDonald, Fred Davis, and Drake Metcalf, which is interesting for the center position. RJ Harvey said to be on the fence about going pro. Javon Baker has been very open about wanting to get paid. Kobe he's been all over Twitter
tweeting it like crazy. I mean,
paid.
Yeah, he said you got 2 year free trial. Yeah, he said you got a 2 year free trial. Better pay up. Yeah,
he wants NIL money.
Oh yeah, he wants the bag. He's got to replace that Hellcat he wrecked. But anyway, that being said, Javon's a great player. There was questions whether he was going to go NFL this year. I think he's probably going to go for the bag. I don't know if UCF has enough money to be thrown around or should be throwing that around.
He'd have to sit out a year though.
Does it matter if you're getting paid a bag?
I don't know.
Depends.
Maybe for someone's a senior. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that matters. Is sitting out in your prime for a year. I think it matters. Yeah.
It should because the point and the goal is to get to the NFL in some way, shape, or form and get at least 3 years in or whatever to get the benefits, right? Exactly. So sitting, I agree with Alan there. the
He doesn't have a lot
smart
of
choice is to
leverage.
try to, yeah,
Counterintuitive. It's pointless to transfer for money when you can just play another year and earn more money by playing well and going pro. Like,
Well, it depends on how much. But it depends on how much money you get. And if he's got to sit out a year anyway, then he can come back for another year anyway, and then get twice the bag, and then go to the NFL.
Yeah,
so,
well, I mean that you're risking, but there's so much more risk because it's the same risk as coming back another year and passing up the NFL. Because if he gets hurt, then it's over. So, like, what is your real end goal? Is your end goal to play on Sundays? Then you do whatever you need to do to play on Sundays. Now, if the bag is a byproduct of that, go for it. But you shouldn't.
Well, it depends on what your draft position is. If you're projecting undrafted free agent or a late round pick, then the move is to go play another year, get a bag that's going to pay you more than a undrafted free agent contract. Go sit the year, come back, and hope for a better. You got a year to practice in the system, and then now you're back. Now you're back in it.
Year too,
I think it's because, like, I don't how much, like, honestly, how much better do we think Javon Baker's going to get? Like, what could he?
I don't know.
That's
Depends.
how I look at it. You know, like, you come back and you're like a glaring hole to me.
If he could hit the jugs machine a little bit more and make sure he's not tipping passes off of his hands and his
I agree. But, like, does that earn him more money? Like, because
it could depending on where he went. It could depending on where he went.
But, like, the NFL is like, it's very traits dominant as far as draft. Like, it's very how big you are, how fast you run, how strong you are. As far as draft, like the draft, it is, and it's a lot, and there are politics in it too. But, like, I don't understand. If I were Javon, I'm just speaking from I would try to go somewhere where either I can get a lot faster, which is you can go train in the NFL to try to do that, or stay a year and pad your stats again. Like, you are at Bama, which is a premier place if you want to increase your draft stock. You left because you wanted to play. Now you're going to leave again for money. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I guess that's my thing.
And he'd still be getting money at UCF too. It's not.
Yeah, it's not like he'd be not making any money.
I mean, obviously, like at a different program.
No, but I mean, let me put it to you this way. Texas Tech has $10 million in their NIL fund.
Yeah.
We have maybe 3. There's a lot more money to be spread around to the team at a place that at other places. And it's unfortunate because college football is now roster management from the pro team as well, right? You've got that going on. And it is what it is. But realistically, if I'm Javon Baker and I get a bag from, I don't know, let's say it's Ohio State or from whoever, North Carolina, not an Ohio State level, but like North Carolina, they're giving me a bag. I'm sitting out and I'm getting the chance to go back. And I even put the same numbers up, but get better physically to put my draft stock back up for the NFL. I don't know, man. I'm not saying that's a crazy, crazy thing. What I wouldn't be doing is be putting it out there on Twitter and public places. You know what I mean?
I mean, like, I guess, like, I don't know how much, like, that's my thing. I don't know how much physically he's going to improve. Like I saw him in person. He looks, I don't think he's going to get much bigger. His play speed, he plays good. It's not great, but, like, that kind of speed to play isn't something that, like, you can develop, like, just over 1 year, 2. Like, he's pretty much kind of, when you're 21, 22, you start peaking out as far as the physical traits. Now, you can become smarter. You can get skillfully better. But, like, the physicalness, the physical traits, I don't see – you're not going to go to North Carolina and improve on that, in my opinion. Like, I don't think if you wanted to improve on that, you would have stayed at Alabama. In my opinion, you would have just stayed at Bama,
well,
develop.
We don't know because, like, here's the thing: NIL deals, like scholarships in most of these large places, like these really competitive places, are 1-year deals, or you got to earn them. So it's a lesser amount. And he wasn't breaking, a place like Alabama where you got 5 stars coming in constantly. You're not breaking into the rotation, so it would make sense for you to transfer and not go to Alabama.
Go back to that? Like, do you consider North Carolina a Bama level as far as the 1-year deals, or no?
No.
I mean, I know nothing about NIL. I just know these guys.
There's no comparison, but also on this whole point is, why would any school pay for him to sit out a year when they could just get someone that could play right now?
I don't know.
And it's not like, and that's the
There's
thing.
no
like,
reason to.
He's good,
Javon Baker's not
but
the best player in the country.
He's good, but he's not. And it's
Pay
not
for 2 years to play 1 year.
He's not that good, and that's just the reality of it. There are some kids in the portal who are younger that were higher recruits, just rank wise, coming out. Like I know there's a kid, Evan Stewart, because the whole Texas A&M issue, like all those kids that were 5 stars that year are leaving. I'd pay for those kind of guys to sit a year and then come back, and then they have 2 years, I think, to play. So right. I don't think, like you said, Alan, it doesn't really make sense from even that perspective. I was just saying, as far as I don't know how much better he really can get. I think his best option is just go wherever he can.
Or try to go pro now, or
yeah,
stay at UCF 1 more year and pad your stats. And
yeah.
So let's talk about some of the other guys. So we talked about Javon's situation, right? So you've got Johnny Richardson, I think, who's kind of waiting it out to see what the running back situation is, right? Yeah. I think RJ is seriously considering staying. Kobe Hudson, I think, will stay. I said that last week. I will say that Lee Hunter, and I don't want to give too much information on some of this stuff because there are other sources out there that work really, really hard at getting it, and I don't want to put that out there. But I think there's a good chance, Lee Hunter was one that we were looking at last week, whether he would stay or not. I think there's a better shot at that than people thought there was. I think UCF as a whole is in a better situation today than a lot of us thought we were going to be about keeping our players there. Where I think the strategy for UCF is do what you can to keep the players that you have. And then whatever's left over from an NIL perspective, who can you go get? Now, where I think that's going to hurt us long-term is a lot of these players that we've recruited that have committed. They're going to look around for bags. Supposedly Mississippi State, Kylan Fox recently visited Mississippi State. That was our big tight end commit for this year. He's got an offer. There's going to be people. I mean, look at what happened with John Walker last year, right?
Yeah.
The whole UF thing, and UF thought they were getting him and whatever. And the whole time, he was committed to UCF and had stuck with it. So we don't know what's going to happen. But the fact of the matter is I feel like we're in a better situation than we thought from a transfer portal perspective and keeping key players that we build around. There's a Tyler. Right. Tyler Shuck was on campus this past this way from Texas Tech. Think about a bigger JRP, but he's had some issues as far as injuries are concerned.
Bigger JRP?
Yeah, bigger JRP.
You got to
that got hurt every year.
That's a high level athlete.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it, but if that's what he is, you gotta roll the dice on that.
Yeah, broke his leg twice in back-to-back years. So if he can do the JRP, which is learn how to slide instead of putting himself in situations, then I think then he'll be in better shape. But very much a dual threat, larger, taller. I think he's 6'5" or something like that.
4 or 5, I think.
Yeah,
I'll look it up.
And he was a starter at Texas Tech for a number of games.
Yeah, and he would have continued to be the starter. He won the job twice off of injury, but he was injured. So he's a good player if he can stay upright. We've still got Timmy that's out there. We've got a player that's currently at Arkansas, Malachi Singletary, who was a big UCF recruit that we thought might come to us last year and ended up going to Arkansas, who's a quarterback, dual threat guy. With Pittman staying there might be an opportunity for him to come here as well. They changed their offensive coordinator, so we'll see what happens there. There were some rumors floating around about that. We'll see what happens there. His mom was tweeting about UCF after all that went down. We'll see. There's a lot to shake out there, but by and large, UCF, I feel, is in a better situation than we thought we were, and we're prioritizing keeping the players that we want to stay here over new acquisitions. What that does to our recruiting class, from a high school recruiting class, who knows? But we all know that we're going to keep in contact with them and try to keep them, get them back if they're transferring again. All right. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to let you guys talk. Just bear in mind some of the sources that we have and making sure that we're protecting them.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
I just want to go back for one.
I don't talk to L's. I don't know. I just go off what I see.
Okay. Just a note. So that
6'5". Thank you, Josh. I was right on.
6'5", and it's Tyler Shuck. Shuck is the pronunciation of his last name.
Is that not what I was saying?
I think he said slow, if I remember correctly. But he was like behind. He's Richard.
We'll have to watch that on playback. I think you need to clean out your ears, brother.
Slow. It said show.
All right, let's keep it going. Keep it going. We'll listen to the playback.
We'll run it back. But he was behind Herbert, right? Justin Herbert at Oregon. He did some work for both Texas Tech and Oregon. He just really couldn't stay too healthy. He's the 2022 Texas Bowl MVP. He did some work. I have a feeling it from everything I've seen that publicly, it looks like it's a good, solid possibility. But yeah, I'm with Trey. 6'5" JRP, like, if he slides,
yeah,
it is something. It feels like it's right up Gus's alley. So, yeah, I was going to say just a quick on who's going to leave. This really is. This is not Josh yells at cloud, but it's so hard. Like, we're talking about roster management.
What's Josh yelling at right now?
Josh is yelling at his mute button. But so there's just I wish there was some type of formality around all this, because like even the NFL, if you get paid to do a job, there's some structure around that. And that part of that's just going back to our basketball conversation, having just 2 or 3 years of the same players makes a team more of a team in any sport. So I actually feel like we're gonna retain a good amount of our players, and only of the ones that have been on X, formerly known as Twitter, so far. It isn't like a ton of them are full-time starters. Definitely could be, but there are definitely some that was it Jordan McDonald announced and did a nice note, and I wish the man the best. Right, he was just behind a lot of. You're behind RJ Harvey, who we all know, right? Johnny Richardson, who's a man, and had 2 other people that just that he wasn't getting the third, and Anthony Richards was interesting, but so it's not anyone who's just like full bore, like, oh no, we can't lose this person. And maybe that happens in the future, but I have a feeling we're going to, through our NIL efforts and other ways, we might have a pretty tight brotherhood of a team next year. I'm hoping, because I don't think we're going to lose too much, and we're getting a lot of freshmen and others in.
We lose a ton.
Well, I'm talking about non-seniors, right? Like seniors who are going elsewhere. Got it. We do on that side completely, yes. But I'm thinking more of the unexpected players we might lose because they want to go and get a bag or aren't getting enough playing time.
I do think center is going to be a question next year. Yeah. I think on the offensive line, I think offensive line will be okay. Assuming Kite stays and a few of the other guys were getting more playing time this year, expected to be starters next year. So I'm comfortable with the O-line, with the exception of center. We're going to have to figure that out because look who we had playing center at the end of the year and who did really, really well. So I think that's got to be answered. I think
every position, honestly.
Yeah, well, linebacker's the big one for me.
Linebacker. Yeah. We
We
have
got
to.
to go get some linebackers.
Almost
And-
no one. I should say no one. Almost no one.
I mean, I think it's day one of the portal. And this kind of follows a similar pattern last year. The first days we lost guys that we were all comfortable with. Like today, it was the only like one that made you flinch a little was Jordan McDonald. Like, oh, a young running back. If RJ leaves, if Johnny Richardson leaves, if Mark Anthony Richard leaves, then you're like not only McDonald could be a big factor, he could be a starter potentially, unless it's Bowman. So there's that one. The other four didn't make you flinch too much, but we saw later in the portal season is when we lost guys like Matt Lee and Tatum Bethune and Ryan O'Keefe and guys like that. So I think there's going to be a wait until after the bowl game because you do have 30 days to in this transfer period right now. So I think we'll see guys after the bowl game maybe improve their stock a little bit for transferring. And two, I also think some guys are going to wait it out to see what these seniors that have the option to leave, like RJ Harvey or like a Hudson or a Baker, if they choose to go pro, to see where their role stands. If those guys are leaving, if there's a big hole there, then there's a void that they're going to need to fill. So they may be more incentivized to stay. So I still think we could end up losing some big names in the portal, not all of them or anything like that. But UCF, from what I know, has a list of like 25 guys that they protect in the sense that they really want to keep and put their best foot forward to keep. So I agree with Roger. I think they're going to do a good job in keeping a lot of guys, but I still think there's going to be a couple more names we hear that's going to be painful to lose. And then we're gonna have to go to the portal ourselves, and we're gonna have to. I think there's a lot of roles, at least from a depth perspective, that we're gonna need to fill because we could have those big three that we talked about losing, with RJ, Kobe, and Javon, and obviously quarterback and linebacker, and then depending on what other positions leave and or go pro, we may have some work to do in the portal.
Gosh, I feel like we're so serious this week. I don't know what's going on right now. There's less hilarity ensuing than there normally is, and not a whole lot of bees being pushed. So for those of you that don't know, that's us marking the video so that we know to go back and make a short of it or something. Trey, did you have anything else to say on this before we get into your Trey Yells at Cloud?
Yeah, I mean, is the early signing day, is that this month?
20th.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it makes sense that like Alan just said, there might be some guys that kind of pop up because that early signing day, you kind of, even if you don't sign your full class, you kind of know what you got coming in and then where you might need to fill some holes with some veterans. So I could see some guys maybe after that, coaches are like, hey, we didn't get what we wanted as out of these high school guys. I might need to go get me a veteran or something like that. So again, it's day one. We're just gonna have to wait and see. I mean, again, these are hard decisions. I'm not gonna say they're not, but it's gonna be what do the guys want? And I think if you can figure out what you want, then you should. It's an easy question on what you should do, going forward.
Yep.
Yeah,
DG to Oregon. Wow, I was hearing USC. Wow. Okay.
The college football portal allegedly. I'll say allegedly. Gabriel going to Oregon.
Yeah, I heard.
Which is it? That X account college? It's called the college football transfer portal. It's called.
Yeah, college football transfer portal.
Yeah, that was the guy that reported that the Texas Tech quarterback had committed to UCF, and it wasn't the case. So I think we'll have to wait that one out.
Yeah.
Well, I know USC is heavily in the mix for DG.
That's crazy to me too. I don't. That USC is going after him because they have the guy that, well, at least I thought they wanted behind Caleb Williams. So he must not be impressing at all if that's the case.
Well, isn't this Caleb's last year?
Yeah, but so they have a kid, Malachi Nelson, who was a big time. I mean, he was a 5-star. I think he was number 1 or 2 quarterback coming out. So again, that's one of those things like, hey, you're gonna kind of like Art. You're gonna sit a year behind our guy. Next year, you're gonna play. So if they're looking for a quarterback, either they want to push them or they don't like what they're seeing just from this year.
I'm going to guess that they've got a big enough LIN. That's a private university in California that has a huge – they were paying players. I can't remember who it was that came. It wasn't just Reggie Bush. Somebody came out and said, yeah, we got an apartment and there was a suitcase with the cash sitting there and I had a car. And
they've been paying players forever.
Yeah. So I can tell you right now that they got a big enough bag that they'll put DG in there. All they got to do is say, hey, we'll let you compete for the job, but you get the bag anyway. You know what I mean?
And so to me, like that kind of step makes sense. Like Oklahoma's a great program. I'm not saying taking anything away.
Yeah.
Well, DG was not playing at Oklahoma next year. The only reason he was there was because of Levy. And that's
it. The thing, you just see what Bo Nix did, his last year. He's leaving, obviously. He's probably going to get drafted high
first round
because of this season.
You mean UCF quarterback Bo Nix?
Yeah, exactly.
He would have been a UCF quarterback had we had the bag.
Yeah. So if that's what DG's kind of like, hey, I'm aiming for that. Because another thing I was thinking, I'm like, just go to Mississippi State. But again, if you want to go play with,
I think Oregon's a great. I mean, DG's a West Coast guy, anyways. Yep. I mean, you go fill Nix's shoes, and Oregon's going to have a great team next year. Yep. I mean, that's a great move, and they probably have a lot of money. They could throw him just like Oklahoma did.
Yeah, exactly.
And it could be allegedly, but whether it's that or USC, which seem to be up in the conversations, those are
it's either SEC or Big Ten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, USC's going to Big Ten too, isn't it?
Yeah, they're going Big Ten.
All right, so honestly, Big Ten or Big Ten.
Big Ten is not a bad. Big
Ten is bad, but we're not going there. That's not the discussion.
If I were choosing between the SEC at Mississippi State with your coach, right, but a new coach, and Oregon or USC or either one, I'm going to Oregon or USC.
Yeah,
easily.
Yeah. Speaking of which, interesting rumors about the new defensive coordinator at Mississippi State, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But allegedly, someone that UCF knows very well may be going to Mississippi State as defensive coordinator.
Drop the Nuggets.
Nope, can't do it.
No.
Can't do it. I can tell you after the show, but I can't do it. So that being said, I will say this: if you are interested in the latest information about UCF, former coaches, current players, future transfers, and incoming players, go talk to our good friend Brandon at UCFsports.com because he literally has information that's second to none, as well as the group of people that are there at UCFsports.com that participate in the forums, very plugged in. So I definitely recommend that. And if you do, let me know. So that I'm on there as Night Bengal so that I can let Brandon know as well.
I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm honestly, I want Brandon to
he deserves
it. To get 100%. the work that he does. Now, he's not our only source. Obviously, we know players, we know people on the team, blah, blah, blah. But
for all the big stuff, it's him, let's be honest.
And no, not for all the big stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I don't talk about on here that I hear from players because
Brandon has every hint that we've hinted at has been something he's said on the forum. Like we're all on the forum here. We know
not everything, but
I'm not.
But yeah, exactly. But I will say this about Brandon. He has a lot of really, really great sources, great relationships.
He's the most plugged in UCF reporter by far.
100%. And I would 100% recommend that you go visit and sign up with his website. So, all right. We're approaching 2:03 now. So Trey, why don't you yell at a cloud about a certain college football team that did not make the playoff, that was undefeated, like a certain other Florida undefeated team that you were a part of that didn't make the playoff, and give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the system's corrupt. I don't think it's something like
didn't pull any punches. His first sentence out the gate.
The system's corrupt. That's fine because we all know this. So I don't truthfully understand the outrage from Florida State fans because you've known this since the college football playoff has been starting. They're going to put the four, not even necessarily best teams, the four teams they think give you the best product on New Year's Day. That's who they're going to put in. I know the year we went undefeated, it's something that we play all of our games. That's all we can do. Like, what more can you do? I agree. But they didn't think that, we for whatever reason they wanted to say, they didn't think that we deserved. They wanted the better product. I think they put Bama in that year, and they put Bama in over a Big Ten champion Ohio State. Now, they lost 2 games, but still. So back then, you should know, conference championship doesn't really matter. Undefeated doesn't really matter. It's what do we want the last games to be? And I also think last year, just being quite honest, when TCU lost 65-7 to Georgia, they were like, we're not putting any teams that we might feel could be undermanned in ever again, no matter how deserving they are. And I think that's the issue with Florida State. I've been saying this the whole time. The first 11 games with Jordan Travis at the helm, they were a top 4 team, and even maybe a fringe top 4 team. When you lose your quarterback, and a great thing that I heard proposed earlier today was, if Washington's Michael Penix would have gotten hurt, do you think they're the same team?
All right, so let me pause you there because I'm going to throw this back in your face. 2017, Mackenzie Milton goes down.
Yeah.
We have our backup quarterback. We have the backup quarterback, and we're not, but he performed pretty well in the championship game.
Yep.
Did you deserve to be part of the playoff that year?
Deserved? I think we deserve it because we won every game. But, I mean, I saw another thing, like one of the
– They're even talking about his injury for the playoff, though, because there was no chance we were going to get into the playoff.
Yeah, and I think the executive director said, like, deserves isn't a word that we're using in the meetings that we're having. So, again, another nugget they're telling you. I think the way they set up the rankings were nuggets of what they were telling us without saying it to me. And we can get into that a whole other week. But
so let's save. I think that's worthy of next week's discussion. I think we all could have. I
think they were setting this up for, including this week, 3 weeks, what they wanted at the end, because they knew that they're smart. They knew they had a problem with all these teams that are high-profile teams winning. At the time when we were winning, we weren't high-profile, sadly. I mean, now we are there. But now when you have Texas, blue blood, huge draw. You have the West Coast teams, blue blood, huge draw. You have the 2 SEC teams, blue blood, huge draw. You have the Big Ten teams, blue blood. Like, they had a problem with what they wanted because you can only put 4 in. So they, 3 weeks ago, in my opinion, were already setting up what they wanted.
It doesn't help when the ACC was part of the axis of evil that fell apart between the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and the ACC that said, hey, screw you guys on the playoff and Big 12 and the SEC. We're going to leave you out in the cold. As long as ESPN controls it, their biggest property is SEC. And you better believe that an SEC team is going to be in the playoff, number one. Yep. And number 2, I think the Big 12, by being left out of that, actually got an advantage because they played by the rules with the ESPN and the SEC and the Big 12 teamed up. And I can tell you this right now. We saw it with the Big East. We saw it. We're seeing it now with the ACC. Florida State throwing its little tantrum didn't help their case whatsoever. So we're going to leave it at that for next week because there's a lot more to say about that. I know Alan's chomping at the bit to talk about this too. And we're already at 2:07. And I got it in before 2:08. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We're going to skip UCF student re-education. We were going to have our good friend Chance McSpadden talk about that with Nobra this week. Unfortunately, we just talked way too much basketball. So let's go ahead and get into – no, it is, and we're going to talk more basketball as we transition away from football. Obviously we enjoy it. But let's talk real quickly about Lipscomb. We kind of mentioned them earlier. UCF defeated Lipscomb 72-57. That's the least amount of points that Lipscomb has scored. They averaged 84 points a game. UCF improves to 5-2. This looked like a different team that was more focused. UCF was led by Darius Johnson this week, 19 points. Sellers had 16, which is crazy because that's an off week for him. Avery had 12 points and 6 rebounds. UCF out rebounded Lipscomb 44-31. We were playing to our strengths, which was in the paint. And Lipscomb shot 38% from the field. The crazy thing is, this is a 3-point shooting Princeton offense team. UCF shot 40% this game, which was better than what they shot before. From the 3-point line, again, I still think, and I mentioned this with Chance, 32% is not going to cut it in Big 12 play. We've got to find some solutions for the 3-point. Free throws, we shot a little bit better this week, 69%. Lipscomb, with as good a shooting team as that is, shot 55%, which is absolutely crazy to me. We out-rebounded them offensively, 14-3, and defensively 30-27. When you have that kind of advantage, you're going to win a lot of games. Assists, Lipscomb had 13. We only had 9, which is kind of crazy. But we did have 9 steals, 3 blocks, and turnovers. We won the turnover battle, but still 16 turnovers isn't that bad. But the turnovers we had were just dumb. Like, you watch the game, it was just like, okay, let me turn around and hand the ball to you, or I had no situational awareness. And what the other thing that's driving me nuts is passing all the way cross court, and through the middle of the paint, and you think that that's not going to be picked off. That's like junior level understanding of passing and basketball. But UCF still won. It was pretty close to 30 points there for most of the game, and it was a dominating win, and they did what they needed to do. Next up, they've got Jacksonville State, which will be interesting. Did you guys have anything to add to any of that?
I was there. No. Yeah. If you got anything on.
No, I was just going to say it's an interesting trend, and I feel like this goes back since I was in school. UCF basketball is just always a bad free throw shooting team. Like, I've never seen a good one, and I saw in this one they shot maybe just under 70 or something like that. So I think that's going to be, as they get into closer games, that's going to be something that plagues them. I mean, they call it the charity stripe for a reason. You can't be shooting, that low. I mean, Lipscomb didn't shoot great either from the free throw line, but the games are going to get a lot harder than this, and you're going to want as many points as you can get. So I think that's something. I think this year I haven't seen maybe one out of 7 games where they've shot decent from free throw. So I think that's been an issue dating back to Kirk's days.
Yeah, it's been an issue for a while, but it's Donnie Jones' teams were all right, but they were lights out when they played us last game. I was there, and I will tell you the one thing that was really different between that game and the Stetson game was the atmosphere, and it's not the difference in the game, but the band being there. Yeah, the band being there was a significant difference. I'm not saying it's going. If the band's at the Stetson game, we win, but it might have made a difference. Like, everyone was a little more energized. There were less people there than the Stetson game, or at least from the eyeball test. But it was a good game, and it was a solid effort across the way. And I even think in our text talk, Ben Stout was talking about one of the players from Lipscomb played at Presbyterian, and he scouted him the year before for a TV appearance. And I mean, when he said that, and then that he was pretty good from 3, and then within like 4 minutes of game time, he gets the ball on some type of curl and just shoots lights out without even blinking and drains it. So it was a good game for UCF. It was much better as a whole. And as I said earlier from the text talk, some of those different combinations of players getting in the game and working together, there was some excitement on some of those different areas. I don't know if Comey is ready quite yet for the entirety of what needs to be there, but there's some, you can see some.
Comey just needs to play. That's his big thing, and he will. So Alan, do you have an oxymoronic stat of the week this week?
No, I mean, I figured as we get closer, I want to save it for the Georgia Tech game. I will maybe like game week.
You don't have any like
for what?
Basketball oxymoronic stats of the week? Come on, Alan. We found out tonight that you were the hoops reporter for the.
You know what? I will. I'll start bringing it in for basketball. Honestly, I didn't. I'm
good. Challenge accepted. I love it.
That, I gotta get back into basketball. I mean, I'm following them, but I'm following like the ESPN Gamecast more than I'm actually watching it. I'll challenge accepted.
Well, Wednesday night will be your first night to start watching UCF basketball again. Okay. All right. Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Do you have one? I see a thumbs up.
I do.
All right, let's go.
So this one's we'll see. This is a Georgia Tech related one, and I might do more. And we talked about Brent Key many times so far in this conversation, and when we were talking about bowl games. So Georgia Tech and UCF, as Alan said, has played 5 times before this bowl game. This will be the 6th game we play. How many games has Brent Key been a part of in the series between UCF and Georgia Tech?
Ooh, I'm going to go with 3.
Okay.
Hold on.
3.
Hold on.
Sure.
Are we saying while he was on the Georgia Tech sideline or just in general?
How many games has Brent Key been a part of in this series?
You said a part of?
A part of.
So he could have played, he could have coached, he could have
been
illegally
somewhere
been filming
on
our
Georgia
games.
Tech's team or UCF's team.
Ooh. I don't think he played when he was playing for them. I don't think he played us. But the way Josh said that makes me think that might be a possibility. So you said there were 5 previous. So I'm going to say 4.
But
Trey,
that doesn't count
out?
His playing years if they played during those. But yeah, just.
Yeah, is Trey? We lost Trey
he's
here.
Lagged. He just sent me a text message. He said he's lagged out. He's joining again. So
okay.
South Florida. So South Florida's internet is bad as Orlando's. All right.
Do you want me to wait for him, or should we just go?
No, just go, man. We're at 2:16. We got to go.
Sure. The answer is every single one.
Wow.
Brent Key has been a part of every single game that Georgia Tech or UCF has played. He was a player, redshirt or not, in 96 through 2000, and we played at Georgia Tech. Hey, Trey, we're just catching up. We have played Brent. If you didn't know, Brent Key has been a part of every single UCF versus Georgia Tech game. Everyone. As a player, he played when we lost in 96, 99, and 2000. In 2020, he was on Georgia Tech, but not as the head coach role. I think that was the Jeff Collins era, which listening to a Georgia Tech a podcaster, they don't talk about that era a lot. And of course, crying after he lost last year. That's what we've read in some articles. So he has been a part of every single game.
So he's never been part of the UCF side, that means, when they played each other.
No. He's actually been, it's been all Georgia Tech, actually. On that entire time, which makes sense since this is the quote O'Leary Bowl. But I was wondering how many times because I knew he's a player there, right? And he played under George O'Leary, and I was like, did that align? And every game.
Awesome, very interesting stuff. So quick update on other UCF sports. UCF women's hoops remained undefeated with a 42-41 win over Campbell to start 7-0 and plays New Orleans next. Now the skin of their teeth, right? Because they've been blowing everybody out. So I think this might be a wake-up game for them without the bad results of Stetson. So this team's really, really, really good. And Alan says a win is a win unless it's Florida State. I agree. So, congratulations to that team. Again, I'll say it this week. Please go watch the games because they deserve your time, and they're a good team. So they're representing us They're trying to build something right now. You're going to go watch some good basketball. We've got some great players coming in. Go watch that team. They deserve it. Also, from a basketball perspective, before we move on, I do want to mention that Ben Stout will be joining us for his basketball analysis. Ben Stout, former UCF player, called games on ESPN for us and also other tournaments. You saw him on Nightline. He was on the radio show with me. Trey obviously knows him well. We're super excited that he's agreed to do our basketball analysis for this year. We'll have Chance McSpadden back again, and we will have BJ Taylor at some point. So for all of you Hoops fans out there, make sure you're tuning in because you never know what you're going to get, but you're going to get some basketball this season. So excited about that. All right, Alan, last thing for the show this week, Big 12 Bowl selection recap.
Yeah, so 9 Big 12 teams made a bowl this year. So obviously well more than half. And obviously UCF is one of them, playing Georgia Tech. As far as the other games, the first one on the slate is Texas Tech versus Cal in the Independence Bowl. Then you have UCF Georgia Tech in the Gasparila. Then you have Kansas versus UNLV in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Then UNC takes on West Virginia in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Then you have Oklahoma State versus Texas A&M in the Tax Act Texas Bowl. Then we have the first of several ranked ones, which is number 18 NC State takes on number 25 Kansas State in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. And then maybe the best one outside of the playoff, number 14 Arizona takes on number 12 Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl. And then we have Memphis, our old conference mates, taking on Iowa State in the Liberty. And then, of course, you have Texas versus Washington in the playoff in the Sugar Bowl.
It's funny. We haven't talked about Iowa State
They're
that
pretty
much
good this year.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
They started off a little raw because of everything that was going on with the whole betting scandal. I don't know what happened with that, if all those players got to come back or what, but it's interesting that we didn't talk about them all season, considering one of their fans had basically called us out and said that UCF is our rival as far as opposing fan bases is concerned. So pretty interesting stuff. All right. That will do it for us this week. I know we kind of went through that quickly. I would say that the basketball stuff was worth it. We will obviously continue to talk football as the basketball season approaches, and we are going to do a bowl preview. And when we do, we're going to bring a good friend of ours back to the show. And his name is Andrew Fagley. So for those of you that have watched Nightline, I did talk to Andrew, and he's going to join us for the show. So I don't know when the Kansas game is in basketball. Remember, he played for Kansas, but he's a big UCF fan.
Early January.
The 6th
Oh,
or
okay.
something.
So it'll be a while. Okay. But we'll get his take on that too, and excited to bring him back onto the show to join Trey and I, and obviously Ben. So it'll be almost like a reunion of sorts for that show. Other than that, I just want to thank everybody for continuing to follow. We see those that volume going up there. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you give us feedback. If you're on Apple, give us a review. Or any of the other platforms. We appreciate what you do. We do it for you. And of course, we have a great time. So thank you, Nobra. Just quick shout out to him. He's doing a lot of the back end work now. So don't say pause. I know you were thinking it. I saw those smirks. But I know he's doing he's doing a lot of that work, in the shadows for us. We appreciate what you're doing, man. I know we joke around, but you're doing a great job, and he learns fast. So I appreciate that about him. If anybody's looking for any help with audio, he's a hard worker, and someone I would certainly recommend. So that being said, this is episode number 15. We look forward to number 16 next week. Alan's going to be watching some hoops, and thank you everyone for what you do. Go Knights and
Charge on.
all right, awesome.
We're still doing the stuff, right? I mean,